Joep, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. I appreciate making time for me. I'm going to shake your hand.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, can you maybe briefly introduce yourself about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, I'm Joep Staps. I'm living in the Netherlands, born and raised in Tilburg. I studied in Tilburg as well, strategic management as a master's. And, currently I'm working as business change manager for ASML, next to having my own company. And first of all, and most prioritizing, focusing on sports. So I'm an athlete.
All right. So I think that's kind of an understatement. You train a lot. So you train like 30 hours a week on average.
Yeah. Well, I sometimes do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you maybe walk us back to the beginning? Like, where did it come from and how did it start?
Yeah. Well, as a little kid, I had a dream, and that was to become a professional football player. And unfortunately, I was not that talented that I could really make it to the top and get a contract. However, in that period, I got injured and started coaching. So I also coach at some professional football clubs, and with football I mean soccer. And it was a nice time, and I did that next to my studies. And at the end of my studies, I had 2 job offers, and I was thinking, well, what would I like to do? Is it like continuing with sports and with football, or is it getting a professional career? And at the end of my injury, I also start with triathlon, and it evolved very quickly. And within 1.5 years, I was in the national team, and I could.
So what age were you then? About?
I think it was 20.
20.
Yeah.
And so, now you're
27.
27.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So triathlon came into my life, and at the end of my studies, I was thinking, well, what would I like to do? I can take the offer and work for like 40 to 60 hours a week, and having a lot of fun, work hard, learn a lot. But maybe I regret it as soon as I was like 30 or something. So I chose to turn it around and to focus on sports first, and make a career afterwards. But in the end, it turned out that I could combine it now. So I have like a dual career with being an athlete and also having a job.
Yeah, so that's interesting because you need to prepare things very well then, right? Also for the podcast, you had to make time. I appreciate it because you have a busy schedule, of course, and you need to train a lot. So can you maybe talk about like how often do you train and what do the trainings look like? So for example, if people want to do like the sprint triathlon, I think that's like the entry barrier. How would you advise people if they are interested in doing that to set up the training?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's very tough to do a sprint triathlon. Of course, it takes some discipline and perseverance, but everybody can do a sprint triathlon.
Untrained?
Untrained, not certain, not certain. Depends on your background, but everybody can do that if you have some dedication and really go for it, and everybody can do it. That's different from being an ambitious elite athlete. Trying to get to the Worlds and European Championships and participate at top 10, for example.
So
what I do, I train mostly 2 times a day.
In the morning and afternoon?
Yeah, well, it depends. It depends based on my work schedule as well. So, for example, on Wednesdays, it's my day off. So then it's easier to train. But on Tuesdays, I swim at 6. Then I come to the office at 8:30. Then I work the entire day, and then at 6:30 in the evening I go for running on the track. So I can combine both.
Yeah, but it takes some discipline because then you can you cannot make other appointments, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Your entire day is full with sports and with work. Yeah. And also all the things you have to arrange, like, okay, I first need to go to Eindhoven to swim, then I need to go to work, and I also need some breakfast, and I need lunch, and I also need some extra calories for the running.
Food is important.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's also important that you have a balance in that, because you cannot eat like an hour before your track training. So
sorry to interrupt. If you go swimming at 6, do you eat something before or not?
I do eat something before, but the most after the training. Yeah, you cannot. Well, you can swimming is actually quite easy to do it on the empty
stomach.
Yeah.
And what do you eat after? Like something with proteins?
I go for some oatmeal.
Okay.
And that works for me now. Yeah.
And then let's say you at 6:30 you're going for a run. What do you eat before and what do you eat after?
Well, it depends. I think it's very personal. What I do right now is I eat like my main hot meal in the during afternoon. Well, during lunch actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's your main meal.
That's my main meal.
That's where you get the most macros and calories.
Yeah, well, for the track training that works for me. Otherwise, I have like stomach problems with running at a track. So
okay, yeah.
And then in the afternoon before, like 2.5 hours before the track training, I eat some sandwiches.
And after training?
After the training, then the recovery starts. So as soon as you got back, you get some yogurt or something like that.
Or shakes as well.
Well, I don't really do shakes actually.
Why not? No. If I may ask.
Well, I'm convinced that shakes can help you, but I rather have like natural food.
Okay. Yeah. So you were talking about like when you were 20, you started doing the triathlon and stuff. So at what point did you think, okay, this, I really have talent for this, and I can, if I train more, then I can compete on a competition level? When did it come?
Well, I think it was always in me, and I don't think I'm really talented. Of course, I train very hard, and there is some talent in me. But the most important talents I have, in my opinion, are ambition, drive, and perseverance.
Yeah, I love those words.
Yeah.
And do you know where does this come from? Did you already have this as a kid, or?
Yeah, I think so.
And who do you? Do you use other people as inspiration as well? Do you have like people you look up to or mentors? Or
well, I do have some mentors, people who support me and giving advice, but to be honest, I don't really have any heroes or something.
No? Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, so let's maybe talk a bit more about the mindset. So I think, okay, of course, first of all, there's a difference between the amateur level, and so if you compete with the age groups, right, and if you compete on the professional level. So if you're going, I know you have some interesting stories, right? So maybe we can briefly touch upon those, but just can you take us back to, let's say, the one where you got sick? Like, how do you mentally, like, that's right? You had a match and then you became ill during the match, so you had to you couldn't finish.
Yeah, correct.
And then what I find what I'm curious at is, like, what were you thinking, like, before and the weeks leading up to? I know you didn't feel well in the weeks prior to the match, but then you decided to go, and then the match itself, and then you couldn't finish. Like, how is it mentally?
Well, I have to admit that prior to the race, I was ill already. So
With feverish?
Yeah, I had some fever, and I tried to recover as soon as possible and to be fit for the race, and didn't train that much before the race anymore. So I was like 1 week in bed and then tried to race. So I knew that it could be hard. But I felt quite good again, so I thought, well, let's go for it, because I knew I trained hard for it. I was in a great shape, so I was really fit, and I was really convinced that I could have like my best race.
And could win also?
Oh, you never know that, but it for me it's not really about winning. Of course, if you're the top, you would like to win.
So what is it then? What's your
It's more about getting better every day.
That's nice. So improvement.
Improvement. And well, of course you would like to win, but if you win quite easy, are you satisfied then? I don't think so.
No, it must be hard, right?
Yeah, well, it must be harder. I would like to achieve something with the I would like to perform. So whether it's a small race or a big race, the result is not really what I'm interested in. It's more like my progress.
It's like the whole process of seeing better results then.
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to the match, like, I mean, you didn't feel 100% when you started the match, right?
No.
And how did it evolve over time then?
Well, that was a run back run, and the first 10K were quite okay. I was in the front, and at the bike, I immediately start feeling really, really bad. So I had no power, and I got really, really sick, and I was really cold. So
you had to step off.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, like, how do you reflect back upon it?
Well, I try to learn from every situation, and in the end, you could also ask yourself, well, was it very smart to start racing? And maybe not, but on the other hand, at least I tried. And
That's true.
I knew that it could be hard, but it's always difficult because if you talk about it afterwards, it's easy to say what was the right decision. It could also turn up that it was quite well,
and that you did, that you finish, of course, and that you, So, what will you do next time then?
Difficult question. That really depends on the circumstances, but I do think that I won't race.
You won't do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, and then maybe the one that you won. So what was that? Was it triathlon or?
Yeah, it was cross triathlon. Yeah.
Can you walk us through that? Like, how was your preparation leading up to the match? What was your feeling?
Well, I was in quite good shape 1 month before that
You
race.
wasn't?
I was.
Oh, you was?
Yeah, I was. But then I got injured. And I had a little injury with my Achilles. And at the end, with some rest and nice, good, not too fast running, I could participate. So I did that, and when I started, I knew that it was my first triathlon of the year, I didn't have real expectations to win. The only thing I knew that I would like to go fast with the swim. I would like to have like.
What's your biggest strength of the three? Biking, right?
Well, biking is quite okay, but I think my running is stronger.
Running.
Yeah.
But they say with swimming, that's the least amount of win. I mean, if you're really good at biking or running, that's where you get win the most time rather than the swimming. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, it depends what kind of race it is, because if like the drafting races where you can ride in groups, and the non-drafting races where you have to
What's that? Okay.
bike all alone. So if you have a drafting race, it's quite easy to bike fast, because you can just ride behind somebody else.
Yeah.
He or she can do the work, and
you can use the speed.
You can use the speed of
front.
those. Yeah, and if you have like a drafting race, then your swim is important, because if you are really swimming, if you are a bad swimmer and you're really coming out of the water at the end of the group, it means that the fastest bikers and the fastest
has the biggest
swimmers
advantage.
Have an advantage, because they can already start cycling and try to escape. So, and in the end, you can win it with running. So if you have a decent swim, you're gonna get it to the front on the bike. Then you still have to finish it with your run.
Yeah, I see. Okay, but with drafting, that's when you go in groups, right?
Yeah.
So do you wait for each other then, or how?
Mostly not. The thing is that as soon as you get out of the water, you have a fast transition. So you pull out your wetsuit, put it in the box, and then put on your helmet and grab your bike, and then you run to the mountain line where you can step on your bike. The first 1-2 Ks are sprinting, literally sprinting. So you're riding as fast as you can, where the biking groups will be formed. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean. All right, interesting. Didn't know that. I still got a lot to learn though. Yeah. So going back to the match, you were saying you were in good form. You had some injury before, but then you took some rest. You didn't expect to win. The day of the match itself, how do you feel?
Well, it was quite exciting because I really liked to go there, and it was a nice environment. It was a nice day. So, I knew I could qualify for the World Championships over there, but that was not my. Of course, I would like to do that, but it was not the main goal. The main goal of the day was enjoying the race and try to get the best out of myself. So after the swim, I was like 7 out of the water. I started biking, and during the bike, I didn't give it all. But
why not?
Well, because I knew that you also had to run.
Oh, so you keep some energy.
Yeah, exactly. And then I came out of I came off the bike at third, and with running it was quite easy because I could catch up, and the others couldn't run that fast as I did. So.
And do you think they lost more energy on the biking, or they were just better? They were not as good in running as you.
I think it's a combination of both. Yeah. So if you bike too fast, it will be very difficult to run fast. If you bike quite easy, it will be easier to run fast. Next to that, I'm a quite good runner, so that's my advantage. Yeah.
And what kind of equipment do you use to, because I think pacing is very important and to keep track of things. What kind of tools do you use during the match or trainings?
That's interesting because of course it's very helpful to use like a
heartbeat thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the speed.
You've got like watches, you've got power meters on the bike and stuff. And I think that can help you training at the right heart rate zones, for example. But on the other hand, it's also important, and I really learned that you learn to listen to your body, so that you understand why your body says, okay, this is enough, and when you can do something else or something extra. So of course it's very useful to have like a power meter and a good watch, but on the other hand, it's also important that you really learn to listen to your body. Yeah. But you feel. Yeah.
But personally, what kind of things do you use?
I've got a watch, I've got a power meter.
Oh, you got everything.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And do you have any preferences? So what would you recommend for a beginning?
For a beginner, well,
like an amateur.
Start with enjoying it. Yeah? So it's not necessary to have all the fancy stuff at the beginning. And triathlon can be an expensive sport, but not necessarily is it an expensive sport. You can also buy a second-hand bike, and you don't really need a fancy watch. Of course, it can help you, but on the other hand, if you just find a nice group to train with, I think that's more important than having a fancy watch.
All right.
Yeah.
So you told in the beginning you have your own company. And I know it's related to, the top sport mindset. Can you explain more about it?
Yeah. Well, I was asked to give like an inspirational speech to talk about the differences within sports and business. And after a couple of events, I was thinking, okay, what did I really add? So
after the talk,
yeah. So did I really help people with that? What is the impact? And the impact was really low.
Why do you think so?
Well, I think that's for every workshop or every inspirational speech. You have a nice story. people think, oh, okay, that's interesting, and I really would like to do with it. But ask all those people 1 week afterwards.
Yeah, and they forget it.
What did you really do with it? And then they said, oh yeah, nothing, because I'm so busy, man. I'm so busy. The thing is that if you really want to create impact, you should have a proper plan and making a habit out of it. And of course, there will be some people who really see the light and think, okay, well, I need to change. But the majority of people,
they don't do anything.
No. And that's not effective, because people invest in like an inspirational speaker or whatever, and you can invite an Olympic athlete, Olympic champion,
but
whatever.
doesn't have creating lasting impact.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was quite frustrated about that. So together with 2 friends, also top level athletes, I brainstormed and talked about, well, what can we do to really have impact? And that's why we created Rebalance. And we are focusing on employability, but also employability, but also vitality and long-term employability. And it's quite broad, I know.
Mm-hmm. Can you give some examples? Like, what are some things companies would benefit from? And I know every company is different, and you have, you know, it's specific for the company, but in generic things, like...
it can be that companies are not attracting the right young professionals, because the young professionals are not interested in their company anymore, because the things they would like to have, like flexibility and stuff, are not possible anymore. But it can also be like a 60-year-old employee who has to work till 67 now here in the Netherlands. It will need to be need to work for the company for the coming 7 years, but might not be really fitting the job description anymore. So how do you deal with that? It can also be like,
do you have to move them out, or are there other options?
Yeah, there are certainly other options. Yeah. So we support companies with that, with the challenges and the dilemmas they have, how to deal with employability. Next to that, we also have like the more development niche, where people can develop themselves with, for example, goal setting, but also leadership, and also different things like nutrition and energy management, time management, that kind of stuff. But then based on a program focused on creating impact. So
for themselves or for the company, or both?
Both. Yeah. So being in balance, work life.
So private and business.
Yeah.
Wise. And looking at yourself, like you mentioned some nice lists there, like energy management, goal setting. If you apply to yourself, would you like to share a bit about if you reflected on, let's say, your business or your sport ambitions?
Well, we started the company based on our experiences within sports. So all the things we do, we also always refer to being an athlete.
Sport, yeah.
And I think that's one of the strong points we have. If you're talking about energy management, for example, I have like a limited amount of energy every day.
Mm-hmm.
I need to train, I need to work. I sometimes also would like to do something social. So I have to choose. I have to make the right decisions to do both. But you cannot do everything, you know.
And how do you plan those things? Do you plan long in advance or week in advance, or something? Also a lot of spontaneous things.
What you have to be careful is that as an athlete you do too much, so you really need to rest. And if I plan too much,
you mean physically speaking, you do too much?
Yeah. There are examples of people who really train hard, sleep like 9 hours every night, do like a nap in the afternoon of 2 hours, and only have like 1,500 steps during the day next to their training sessions. So
that's very little.
That's
right?
really little. That's a lot. Yeah, it's not much. So the thing is that if you really want to become a good athlete, or really want to achieve something, that can be top 16 of the worlds, can be European champion. It really depends on your level and your ambition. But if you really want to achieve something, you have to do sacrifices.
Yeah. So what kind of sacrifice have you made? What do you say?
Well, I would like to go to a bar sometime and meeting friends spontaneously. But well, those things are quite difficult because I need to train. I need to rest. I cannot drink a lot of alcohol. So well,
there's some benefits too, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Of course, but that's.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah. So I know you've had some training camps abroad, like South Africa, Portugal, Spain, if I remember correctly. Like, why do you do that? And what do you enjoy do you enjoy it?
Oh, I certainly do that, yeah. Well, I think it's very important that you enjoy everything you do. And if you don't, you have to change your way of living or whatever to ensure that you do the things you really like and you really love. But what I really like about being on training camp is the focus. If you are working next to your athletic ambitions, you always have to find a balance between work and sports. And if you are on a training camp, you can really focus on your sports, which also means that because you don't have to spend energy on working, you can use that amount of energy to train and also to rest. So it's a very good way to improve because you can really focus on sports and not spending energy on other things.
And would it make sense, like in the winter, you can probably train better somewhere else where the sun is shining, right? So how do you plan? How do you plan those training camps? So you went to New York, right, to train. So how do you come up with that?
Well, I would like to go to South Africa, for example, because South Africa was like a 3-week altitude camp where there's less oxygen in the air.
I see. Yeah,
there's less oxygen in the air. So that time of the year, it was really a build-up period. So for the season, say like March till July. So I was really working on my fundament of training and on endurance, and I think it's very important to have like a good training session, have focus, but also being able to do long training sessions, like 4 hours on the bike, 2 hours of running,
and then in that atmosphere,
1 hour of swimming at one day. If you do that, for example, in January here in the Netherlands, it will be very cool because you'll be frozen on the bike. Then you have to run like 2 hours, and you're missing your vitamin D. That's also something which is important. So you're missing the sun. So that's why we go on training camp.
That's nice. Which one? And then you also you play the competitions are abroad, like Romania, France, Denmark. That's also nice, right? Or how do you see that yourself?
Yeah, well, it is nice. It certainly is nice to visit other countries. On the other hand, because of your tight schedule, it's not that you are on holiday over there.
No, so but it gives a different, I would say, feeling, vibe, or not?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I really like competing in France, for example.
Why? Because
of the French people and the atmosphere and the level of the competition is very high.
They approach it a bit more.
I think the French competition is one of the best.
The best in the world.
In the world, yeah.
I thought the US, but
well, no, I think France. Yeah, also a lot of people from the US are competing in French teams, so they're coming over to Europe during summer and race over there. But so the level is quite high. I like the people and also like the preparations and all the environment to race.
I see. Yeah, and you haven't competed yet in the States, right?
No.
Like a match.
No.
Is there a reason for that, or is that something you still want to do?
Well, when there's an opportunity, I will go. But Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in the New York area last June, and there was a race, but it didn't fit in my schedule, so I decided not to do that one and just train.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What is your schedule looking like? Let's say the next year, the coming 12 months. Do you have any matches planned?
Coming 12 months. Well,
Why are you laughing?
Well, I usually plan my year in 2 parts. So the spring part and the fall part, where during the January, February, March, like training a lot. Also, it starts in December already, and sometimes also November. But those 3 months are really preparing.
It's like off season-ish.
Yeah. November is off season mostly, but so I split the year in 2. The first half until July, and the second half until November, something like that. So right now it's
almost
August,
finished, right? Yeah.
Well, it's August, so I'm focusing on 3 races, being qualifiers for the European Championships. And if I can qualify myself, then I have the Europeans in October. So I trained really hard, like last couple of weeks. So the last month was really tough. And then I have like 3 races planned, and then I have 2-3 weeks of, adapting, and then it's a couple of weeks to train hard for the Europeans again. And after the Europeans, I will have some rest.
And then one thing I'm also curious at, like, if the build up to those matches, do you intensify the trainings also? Like, do you build it up, the intensity?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
because that's one of the things I also read, and because that's needed, right? You cannot go all out every day, right?
No.
So I assume prior to like the last couple of weeks leading up to the match, you will train as most realistic as you will do on the match.
Yeah, you can say it like this. First, you have to build up endurance so that you can, so that you're able to finish. So if you have a race of 2 hours, you need to ensure that you have enough to race 2 hours. Then thereafter, you have a training block where you focus on speed. So you're doing more like intense work. And at the last couple of weeks before the race, the intensity even goes up. Sometimes
and what's
even
the focus there then?
Higher than race pace.
Higher than you will do during the race.
Yeah.
So why is that then?
Well, that's because if you do that, you train well enough and you train smart, then your pace will be faster. So you adapt.
You increase the base level.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I see. All right. Yeah, it's very interesting. Thank you for sharing your experience. Are there any things we didn't touch upon, or you would still like to highlight? Or I'm gonna put like where people can find you, or your website, for example. I'm gonna put it on the page description. But for now, are there any things we didn't touch upon and you would like to share?
Well, what I would like to share is that it's important that you really do what you like, and if you do it right. So whether it's that with employability or long-term employability or vitality, if you're a company or you're working for a company struggling with those kind of issues, please do it right or don't do it, because otherwise the effect is zero or a minor effect. And that's also when you're doing like a triathlon. If you really would like to go for a sprint triathlon, go for it, but really go for it. So not saying, okay, I would like to go for a triathlon sometime and never start doing it.
Just plan ahead.
Yeah, you maybe can imagine what's happening if you are on a holiday or you're having a couple of weeks off. After 1 or 2 weeks, you get bored, and then all the great ideas pop up and think, okay, I would like to start my own company, and I would like to do a triathlon, and I would like to build a tree house, whatever. But most people never ever start.
They don't execute. Right?
Yeah, so they don't execute, and
that's true.
Well, that's something which can be really, really nice if you really have the perseverance to start it and to end it.
Awesome. So Joep, thanks a lot for sharing all your knowledge here, and I really wish you all the best for the upcoming months and the matches, and I'll speak to you soon. I'm going to shake your hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.